welcome everybody to this experts panel about the impact of COVID-19 on games, travel, and translation. This event is brought to you by Wordby, the makers of the Wordby translation management system, and it's hosted by my colleague, Robert Rogi, and myself, Tanya Falkner. On today's panel, we'll be talking with you about translation and localization experts. We'll be talking with experts about how the current global pandemic is impacting their work, changes in their respective lines of business, forecasts, and more. For our listeners, if you have any questions during the panel or comments, you can write them on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try to answer them and address them as we go. This session is also being recorded, so if you'd like to rewatch it later or share it with colleagues, then you can do so because you'll receive the recording within 24 hours.
Cool. So we're super excited to welcome three experts here with us today, namely Sarah Beuter, the head of localization at Gameforge, Racheva, head of localization at Skyscanner, and Richard Brooks, the CEO at K-International. Right on. So we'd like to give you a moment to introduce yourselves and your companies and what you're up to. So let's start with Hristina.
We should probably just mention.
Oh yeah, we can't see. Yeah.
There has been an issue with the video.
Thanks for starting with me, the invisible panelist. But yeah, thanks everyone for the invitation and for being part of this panel. So some of you might know me. You might have to imagine how I look and what I look like, but I'll also in the meantime give you a brief introduction of myself and my kind of a very quick journey of how I got where I am now. But originally from Bulgaria, I did my degree in Bulgaria and moved to France to do a master's in translation. And at that point, at the beginning of the master's, we were informed that as a translator, you're only supposed to translate into your native language. And somehow that was almost like a revelation to me. I was not aware. So as a Bulgarian translator back then and even now, not many opportunities. So that was, great investment at the beginning of my 2-year master's degree. Luckily, during and after that, I got a chance to do a few internships in translation in different European institutions. And there I got a few more revelations. One is, as much as I love languages, the life of a translator is very solitary, and I really enjoyed the interactive part of work. And the second revelation was that I was a really, really slow translator. My overthinking models really take me ages. So it was like, okay, there I am. I love languages. What should I do? I ended up living in Dublin in Ireland, looking for opportunities with languages. And I saw this job ad for localization project manager. It was like really, okay, it has to do something with languages, but back then, what is localization really? I took the interviews, went through the interviews, got the job. It ended up being an opportunity at Google for a project manager in the localization team, and it was a really amazing opportunity because I really fell in love with the localization, project management, the diversity, the dynamics that we see every day. And as much as I loved it, I did not like the Irish weather. So after a while, I decided to move to Barcelona. And here I am today, 4.5 years later, working at Skyscanner. We've also had a great journey ourselves. When I started, there was 3 of us. And now 4 years later, we have a team of 10 project managers, 6 engineers on the team, and we've been doing really interesting things that I'll talk about later. So that's me very briefly.
Cool. That's a lovely story. So maybe next, you want to go, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, so I'm Sarah. I'm from Gameforge, located in Germany, Karlsruhe. So right to the French border. It's a really nice place, a lot of sun. And I started out as a community manager at Gameforge like now 14 years ago. And in this time switched to localization. When I started in Gameforge 14 years ago, there was no localization department, no dedicated translators and stuff like this. So I built that up all on my own, more or less, having a big and great team at the moment of 22 people, including translators, internal translators, localization managers, and a lot of freelancers, but more on the processes, I think, later on when we are talking about processes anyway.
Yes, we will.
Cool. And Richard.
And then I was going to say, last but not least, I thought you were going to say
Yes.
that. But no, first of all,
Third time's the charm, or
yeah, insert funny clip now. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. And secondly, thank you for calling me an expert. I'm flattered. So, my name's Richard Brooks. I am the chief exec of a LSP in the UK called K-International. We're based in Milton Keynes, which is in the very centre of England. But saying that, we've got people all over the place. We translate a lot of work for the public sector, which at the moment I'm quite glad about. And at the moment, not so much work for the private sector, different verticals. So we did do a lot of travel and tourism. We did do a lot of retail as well, but that's obviously been put on pause, should we say, given this crazy situation. Me personally, I've been in the industry since I was, 20, so I guess that's 25 years. Hard to believe, I know, looking at this space. So 25 years in the industry, I've done most roles. I bought K-International in 2009-ish, which was great. Part of that was I put a lot of money into commercial property as well, which now I'm sitting there thinking, why do I need an office? You know, we can debate that, can't we? Well, that's a complete waste of money as an office. Anyway, I digress. I'm a graduate of Cranfield Business School. I've got an MBA from Cranfield, which is a small university in Bedfordshire, again in the middle of England, not far from Milton Keynes. I sit on various panels to help various business schools. So we're developing various things at international sales and key account management and things like that. And I'm also treasurer for ILEA, the European Language Industry Association, at the moment.
Awesome. Well, thanks for introducing yourselves. It's great to have you all here today. So let's jump right in. Like we mentioned before, we want to talk to you about the changes you have seen in your companies and in your industries, but also in your jobs, and the role that translation and also translation professionals are playing in all of this. Hristina actually mentioned this, I believe, last week on her LinkedIn. She said, you know, we're all experiencing this new reality and learning how to navigate through it while adapting to its limitations. But like in any crisis, there are lessons to be learned, and this is exactly what we're here for today. And we also want to talk about this. So, Hristina, we'd actually like to turn to you first, and maybe you can share with us a little bit, you know, what has happened at Skyscanner in the last few months, and how you've been dealing with the situation, since we all know that the travel industry was one of the most affected ones. Maybe you can share a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Very, very correctly, as you point out, travel is one of the most impacted, was, continue to be, and very likely will be for a long time impacted industry. And you know, some of the things that we did is really be there for our travelers and support them in any way that we can. So at the very beginning, as we know, you know, the situation started with a few closed airports in for regions in China, and then slowly countries or airports starting closing. And at that point is when we realized that obviously this is something that's it's just starting to spread. It's going to take to be here for a while, and it's going to hit us hard. So what can we do? And then we kind of rallied almost internally. We created this sort of a campaign that we called internally Supporting Travelers Through COVID, STC for short. And that was like a campaign that involved so many teams across the organization: marketing, product, user research, design, data scientists, localization, and really a few others. And that was like, how can we support our travelers through this time? And kind of this campaign had a few streams of work that were almost happening either simultaneously. Some of them continue to happen. So the first was really Obviously, everyone is feeling confused, anxious. How is this going to impact me? What does this mean for me? So it was, how can we provide reliable information to our travelers? So as part of that, for example, we created landing pages per country with information that refers to their local government information, maybe points of contact. So in any way that we can help them inform themselves. Another stream of work we had was how can we connect with our travelers in this time. And we are in this together because we're also travelers ourselves working at Skyscanner, and we know how everyone feels. And for example, as part of that stream, we had a letter from our CEO, Brian Dove, that we sent out, translated again to all languages, sent out. We've had like internal initiatives to share with travelers how we feel internally and what our plans were for traveling afterwards. Another stream was trying to understand how travelers are feeling, and that was largely led by our user research team. So we've had weekly pulse surveys in over 16 markets, I think, languages, and we've had thousands of travelers every week taking those surveys. And again, that helped us understanding their sentiment. How are they feeling? What do they, feel like about the immediate future, the long-term future? And the last stream was engaging. Obviously, in this time, we don't need just content to inform ourselves. We also need, to keep ourselves entertained, a bit of excitement, and how can we support our travelers to, in a way, continue traveling from home. So I don't know if any of our listeners follow Skyscanner social media accounts, but there have been some really good activities. My favorite ones were on Instagram. We've had quizzes around countries and guess the country or guess the food, traveling horoscopes, Spotify playlists of different countries. And again, so all of those streams came with different content assets, content types, and all of those was translated for all our languages. So this is some of the work that we did or continue doing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, it must be a challenging time there, but it's neat to see that you've reacted and done some cool things. So let's get Sarah's overview then in gaming. So your company has been a little bit on the other side, gaming has gone up. There was a worldwide increase in video game sales of 63% in March, at least according to Statista. So did you have a similar experience there? And so what's going on at Gameforge since people have been forced to stay at home?
Yeah, yes, it's definitely gone up. I mean, our numbers are, yeah, I can't tell you exact numbers, but they are looking really great since beginning of March. We are on a top level right now, and we really saw, like, when the lockdown started for most of the countries, that also not only the players went up, but play time went up, which is one of our bigger KPIs. Like, we need to keep the people in the game, and we can see a big increase there. And we supported all this with having extra events for them. Normally we have like maybe one event per month per game, and we started having more regular events and more different ones right now, because people are stuck at home and they need to be and keep entertained, and we think that we are taking a big part in keeping the curve down and having the people entertained and not going nuts home alone or in quarantine. So yes, we definitely saw this in our numbers, that the revenue and everything just went up a lot.
Very cool. Yeah, games is like it's like travel, only from your sofa.
Yeah, right.
Right on.
That's great.
And
it's
then,
good to see that there's, yeah. All right. So, and then Richard, as the CEO of a language service company, you've obviously been on the forefront when it comes to the impact of COVID on the translation industry. So what have you experienced at K-International? Has it like limited you in any way, or possibly even the opposite? What's been your experience?
Yeah, it's been a mixed bag for us, really. I mean, I think first of all, as an industry, we're incredibly fortunate that we can work from the beach, right? So we can work anywhere, almost. All of our systems are digital, and we connect in anyway. I mean, physically, I've got 40 guys in Milton Keynes, and maybe a couple of hundred sprinkled around Europe. But I mean, to not have the 40 guys in Milton Keynes wasn't a major issue. We just worked at home, so it's a bit awkward because you're working at home and you're working in, as we can see, that it's my new headquarters in my garage, and it's messy, and it's not, you know, not terribly professional, but it's the same for everybody. It's nice to hear some good news about the gaming industry picking up. That's great. Maybe we should do some more gaming at Transat. I'll have a word with you later, right?
Yeah, sure.
In terms of sort of top line sales, I guess we're fortunate. We're only 20% down. I've heard some shocking stories from, I won't name anybody, but from some of my colleagues that have lost 60, 70% of their business almost overnight, which is incredibly, you know, psychologically it's difficult to deal with. I mean, so we've always had it's been a nightmare on our company, but I've always had it. So we have a mixed bag of clients. So we have a lot of public sector work, which is sort of low margin, low tech, fairly boring work. So it's paper most of the time, and it goes through the system, it comes out the other end, but it's bread and butter, and it pays the mortgage, you know. So stuff like that, the mechanism of government is still happening. So that is still, at the moment, that is still going on, and that's still happening. So that comes in every day. What's been difficult is we've had some, I think, first of all, I invested an absolute fortune into the business. Secondly, we were hoping 2020 would be an epic year. So we've bought all sorts of stuff preparing for this awesome year. And obviously it's not. So we've had to sort of quickly, let's say, redeploy capital. But my accountant is my best friend, you know. So you need to make sure you know exactly what the financial mechanics of your business look like, and exactly what cash flows and things like that are, how they work in terms of a business, and what will ultimately kill you. I don't want to use that word, but what will ultimately put you out of business. You know, you need to keep a close eye on that. But we've been lucky because we've got a mixed bag. We've done some healthcare projects for UK government, which obviously that is literally write your own check. We'll put them through whatever you want to charge us. We'll pay because it's important. So we've done a lot of research from Japanese and Russian into English for the work they're doing on the vaccine. So that's great. But then the corporate work, it's really difficult to actually get a decision on a large project at the moment. People are like, next month, let's just wait and see, next month. And then obviously sectors like, we do a tiny bit of automotive, we do a bit of travel and tourism, all that's just like, we've just go away. We've not got the budget until, you know, God knows when. So yeah, a mixed bag. 20% down, can survive that. Not scared about the business. I'm gutted because we were going to grow at 20, 30, 40% this year, you know. So we've gone all in, put all the chips on black sort of thing, and obviously that's not happened. So, but we are incredibly fortunate that we can still operate. We're not a pub or Starbucks or McDonald's or, you know, where we've just shut. We've done business, and we've done some deals, which is great, you know. Incredibly grateful for the team. And I think it's a great show of sort of human resilience, really, that people can work from home. They can pick up a laptop and get on with it. So there's questions that I guess you could ask me in a minute. Well, there's questions there about, well, do we need an office? Can debate that. Should we do 2.5 days a week in the office, 2.5 days a week at home? Could I be anywhere in the world? Why should I be in UK, which is quite expensive to live? Well, I could be in somewhere a lot cheaper, you know, the money would go a lot further. Why is my pension tied up in commercial property? Anyway, sorry. So yeah, it's been a mixed bag, but we're okay. We're fighting.
So what? Just to you mentioned that you had stories from other people that were LSPs. What like which LSPs do you think had the hardest time Like I know that some LSPs were combined with language schools, and I know that they had a hard time. But what were, without naming any names, of course,
Yeah,
like
sure,
what?
sure.
Mhm.
So I know some guys that work predominantly in the automotive sector in Stuttgart, and that has stopped. So that is their conversations, as far as I'm being told, that their conversations are next quarter, next quarter, next quarter, and it's just literally the work has stopped. So that you would see if you worked for, you know, some of the big ones, that's just going to be paused for a while. There'll be some work because there's some work to do, but car sales have dropped 90-something%. I saw the stat on the Financial Times today, 97% or something like that. It's crazy, isn't it? So, you know, at the moment, no one's buying a brand new BMW, so except maybe in China. But I mean, there's very little sales going on, so that obviously scares the life out of those businesses. So they stop all, not just translation or localization, but they'll pause all expenditure, and that will be that for a period of time.
Yeah.
And I know some companies that work for, you know, pharma and pharmaceutical devices, I wish that we did more, you know, doing 30% more, and they've had the best April ever and the best May. May looks great and the numbers look fantastic. You know, it's almost like, you know, making it rain. Print your own invoices, let's get them in, you know, and that's wonderful. But who knew this was going to happen? I guess that'll be crazy for a bit, and then it'll come back. We'd hope that the economy goes back to normal. Gulp.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah, stay tuned.
All right. So Richard started on this already with like on the impact on the translation industry. Now, Hristina and Sarah, you're both in head of localization positions. So how did your teams? What role did your teams play during the change? Maybe, you know, have your workloads changed or your processes? What's happened in your localization teams?
So nothing. I mean, yes, we all moved from the office to home, but besides that, nothing really changed because, as Richard already mentioned earlier, it's like our tools are all online anyway, and a lot of communication is online anyway. So in the end, it does not really matter where we are. I think Gameforge did great because it was like there was a decision made, and one day later, all employees from Gameforge were able to work from home. It was like there was not a lot of big preparation and stuff. Our tech guys, I think they had a sleepless night, but they made it happen, and it was really impressive to get so many people to their homes and be able to work, and it was well organized. And but besides that, we try to keep up our meetings. We try to keep up all the information flowing, which is now even more in written, but I mean, that's good for us because sometimes it's more to translate. But besides us moving home, nothing really changed. I got some requests from our externals like, hey, there's this crisis now. Are you still going to pay me and stuff? And I was like, yes, we're still going to pay you. And I think we in the gaming industry are really fortunate because also, as Richard already said, we are still able to work. We are still earning money. It's not like we are in really deep in the crisis like automotive or travel. So it was a shock for the people because we're like not only co-workers but friends, and we're missing each other a lot. It's like we really started setting up coffee breaks via video calls to just talk to the people. But I think it's important to do it. But other than that, nothing changed.
Hristina, how about you?
Yeah, well, for us, you know, in terms of how we work and where we work, you know, apart from the fact that everyone's at home, that hasn't impacted us as a team, as a company. We're highly distributed. Our team is in 4 different offices in 4 different cities. But really what has been the biggest impact is all the work that we've had to do to support all these campaigns and that communication and efforts that I've mentioned. And on one hand is coordinating, that was the effort of more than 10 teams working on all those different communication campaigns and efforts. So us being part of that work from the very beginning, and that's a lot of content. So on one hand, having to translate all that COVID related content, at the same time, yes, we're in a crisis. Yes, we don't know what travel would look like, but as a company, we have our focus on our goals, on our product development, so we continue working on that. And coincidentally, we have like a few big projects working on, so that was also a lot of content to be translated. And amazingly, we've recently started working with a new translation partner, like a big shout out. It's translated from Italy, and they've been like really amazing to support us in this, because you might know they work also with Airbnb or other travel or tech companies, and everyone at the moment is creating lots of content. So obviously high increase of volumes, and within from the very beginning, when we started seeing these large volumes for us of content, they were able to increase our translator base, increase our resources on our account, and we've had most of the content was turned around within 1 day, because all of this, again, it's pretty urgent content, either supporting travelers that need some sort of information or just continue that engagement. So it's has in a way impacted just in terms of having a bit of a bigger strain on our work. And at the same time, like the localization team, just as any other team within the organization, we have our own quarterly goals and OKRs. So at the beginning of the quarter, we've had our own OKRs, and obviously we did not plan for COVID work to take over and to take away from our time to work on those goals. So it was a matter of how do we reshuffle the team and dedicate enough people from the team to work with those internal teams to support them, and which of our goals for the quarter do we put on pause, do we scale down. So that has been mostly the impact that we've seen.
Mm-hmm. It's cool to see that, although like in travel the business is going down, but basically, I mean, you almost make it sound like the content went up and maybe even your work got more, or I suppose it was shifted, right?
It did, because as I mentioned, all of that work that we did is really to support our travelers, and it's almost like our commitment and our obligation to them. So how can we first help them find the solutions that they need for those at the beginning who are really impacted with cancellations and refunds, and then just like a human support of how do we go through this and keep ourselves entertained and engaged.
Right. You mentioned at the beginning that you have 10 PMs and 5 or 6 engineers. Do you still have all 10 PMs active right now?
Yeah, we haven't had any layoffs. We all have, the whole team is still working, and again, there is, as I mentioned, there is a lot of work just going on in general, a lot of projects that we keep working on, so that we still need our full force to go through this.
Mm-hmm. So what do you all think, like what went really well in your companies or in your teams, and maybe what could have been done better in hindsight?
Yeah,
I mean, we're still in the middle of it, I guess.
I can start if you want.
Sure.
I mean, what went well was we can work, so we're really fortunate. So I'm really glad that I don't own a restaurant or a pub. Let's put it like, I'm really happy that a lot of my personal money is in an LSP, which can still function. And look, so if I sit here now, I think, well, Q3 and Q4 will happen, and we will get, there'll be some sort of commerce going on, there'll be some sort of business happening, which is great. And talking to my friends in the industry, there's work happening. We're doing stuff. The industry itself is broad enough. It touches all of the economy. So, there's stuff, and there'll always be something. There's no automotive work, there'll be farmer work to do, and we're quite dynamic as an industry, and we can change and do stuff. I think what worked bad, if I look back, then I wish I hadn't bought an office. You know, I'd sooner bought.
Right.
What could I spend that money? I mean, that I'm not going to tell you how much it cost, but good God, you know, it seemed like a good investment at the time. It's not anymore.
Right.
I wish I'd spent it on, I don't know, Google AdWords or something new.
Why do you think, if I might ask, like, why do you think you bought the office? Like, was it just like it was an investment, or was it a personal pride thing? Because it's cool to have an office.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head. So when you come to Milton Keynes, Robert, I will take you around the wonderful sites of Milton Keynes, and we will finish with the crescendo of my office. You'll love it. It's brilliant.
Okay.
Why have I got an office? I started my career in engineering, and we had a factory, and the factory made products. And then we transitioned into graphic design. So we needed a cool studio to do cool stuff, and then we ultimately ended up as a translation company / LSP, whatever we're calling it this week. So I think it's from that, and I think it's just a throwback to we need an office. I resisted being in London because London was too expensive, which I'm super glad I've not got an office in London now. But we've got a nice office in Milton Keynes, which is a lovely advert for Milton Keynes. It's a lovely city. You should all come. But it's just inertia, and it's the old days, isn't it? And it's, why do we buy an office? Seemed like a good investment. Financially, it makes sense. If, again, I won't show the P&L, but if I can show the P&L and how the tax works and things like that, then it makes sense in terms of extracting money out of an organisation. That's a great way of doing it. And we were being advised to do that up until 2 months ago. I mean, that's what any financial advisor worth its salt would tell you to do. But I don't know. It's just because we did, and we'd have big meetings there, and parties and all sorts, and beers on a Friday, and all of that, And the thing we miss is, as Sarah said, the thing that's been really difficult, and it might just be my personality, it might just be me, but I miss going to the office. I miss seeing the people, and I miss sort of existing in that environment. That's been really hard for me. Now, whether we ever return, I hope we return to that. And we have, I love meetings. I love talking to people and things like that. I love going to other people's offices and comparing.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. I think it's a nice experience. I'll come round yours and we'll have a beer and stuff. It would be great. Then we come to mine, we'll compare. And it's like around someone's house, isn't it? It's a nice experience. I think that maybe it's just me. But what I've learned through this is that we can get stuff done a lot quicker. So a lot of the phone. So we'd say the day would start at 9, so we'd all get into work, we'd have a cup of tea, have a chat, blah, blah, blah. 9:30, we'd sit down, have a meeting. What are you going to do this week? I'm going to do this. And all that bullshit that we sort of get taught at business school, all that nonsense in the day, the amount of work we do gets less and less, doesn't it, I guess? Well, if we're working on Zoom in the garage, it's just like, right, I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to get it done and get finished. And I think to some extent, we're more efficient. And I think in an LSP, there'll be certain functions which are much more efficient to be located on your own in the garage than being in an office and all of that management bingo you have to play and reporting into people and all the politics and stuff.
Right.
You just don't need it. So, I mean, what's been good, I've not put any fuel in the car for 3 months. I don't even know if it still works. So it's just got cobwebs all over it.
You actually mentioned a really interesting point. Yeah, but when you talked about productivity, I think that's really interesting because Robert and I have been working from home for a long time, so we're used to it. And I've said, I think we both agree that we're more productive at home than in an office. And it seems you've had the same experience now. Like Sarah and Hristina, did you have similar experiences? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a really personal observation maybe or experience, because say for myself, personally, I prefer working in an office. I feel more productive in an office. At the same time, in the current situation, working from home, I say have been unfortunate enough to live on my own versus, people who have maybe families to support, children, because, obviously a lot of individuals and families who had their kids at home, two partners working while having to take care of the children as well. It's been very challenging. And this is, this is also one of the things that have worked well for us. On one hand, we had, as an organization, no problem at all to move directly again one day to the other, working from home. We've been working remotely for a long time, or distributedly for a long time. And it was, it was surprising to see also that as we started doing that, and as we went from week 1 to 2, and now end of month 2, it's amazing to see that we've managed to keep our focus as well, because there is this some sort of concern. How is everyone individually going to experience this and go through this, and how are their constraints going to be? And we've had good kind of a focus, maintain the focus on the team, but something that as an organization we've had a support from the leadership team. It's been amazing to see from the very beginning. As soon as we started working from home, we've had this initiative right from our CEO, where we call it your choice time. So we have 3 hours a day, every day, the exact same block of time across the organization, all offices, that we can take these 3 hours and do anything that we need to do to keep ourselves sane. And it's literally anything, because for some people that's just taking care of their kids and so that their partner can work. And for other people, it's I need to go out for a walk if I can, or do a workout or yoga. And for others, is today I'm fine, I don't need that, I just have 3 hours of extra work that's undisturbed, because no one's supposed to be pinging you on Slack and all that. So that again is, yeah, we've had that from literally the first week, that maybe second that we started, and continues to be for everyone. So it's something it is like really across the organization. Everyone's super benefiting and super happy for that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, we're learning a lot. Which meetings could have been emails, because what was said earlier, like, yeah, you're coming in and then having a meeting and talking about who's doing what and stuff like this. This is just not done. And if there's something someone else needs to know, then there's an email explaining what and stuff, and not like, okay, we first need to see when we maybe could set up a meeting. So stuff is going through the workflows way faster, because we don't have to wait to find the meetings time slot where everyone is available. It's just like, there's an email, when you have time, answer, and it seems it's a lot faster. I don't see any change in the speed of the translators. I think they are not that much affected anyway, because of our setting at Gameforge, because they are working on their own and being as much shielded from the project managers as possible, so they can concentrate on translating, like, really, and that didn't change for them at home. But I see the difference for the local managers, like, they are not that often in meetings, so they are getting a lot more stuff done.
Do you find that people are taking like greater care with their emails too then? Like not just like answering emails, but like writing them more clearly and organizing them with headings and bullet points and thinking things all the way through? Like, is that what's going on?
For some, yes. Some are still like, this is it, deal with it, and some even started to create Confluence pages for stuff which was normally discussed in meetings, and I think it's great to have it documented and stuff like that. So yeah, some are taking more time and others not, and I see the issue. I mean, not that much in my team, because the team average age is not that high, so there are not that many people with kids. But those who do have kids do have the opportunity to like split their work. Right now I have one who's working early in the mornings when his wife is taking care of the kids, and then he's taking like the lunch break and stuff, and then he comes back later the day, but it works. Yeah, it's fine somehow.
Okay, I just quickly want to mention, because I see a few people virtually raising their hands. So if our listeners do have any questions, then you can type them out in the chat box. And we do have a question right here. So they're asking, how are you guys managing the internal team members who are not responding via chats or emails timely? Are you able to track staff effectiveness?
I can take this as well. As you know, at this situation is really, of course, it's important to look at effectiveness and efficiency, but it's also important to just keep ourselves again sane and healthy to go through this situation, to this period, whatever that end time will be. And then at the end of the day, is how much in general as a culture does your company have to rely and to have trust in your employees that if you're not responding immediately, it's because you are in some way focused on something else, or because it's your personal judgment and call. So it's definitely something that we are not doing right now, or we have never done. Again, we've worked a lot. We in general as a company as well, we have very, very flexible work from home policy, so anyone can work from home at any time. So it's something that's again is part of our culture.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to see people's output, so not that fussed. I think generally speaking, people have been really grateful that we've just gone. Like we said, it was almost 1 day's notice in the UK. It was like the Prime Minister came on the telly, the country's closed, and that's it. We all shut down. So we just moved that day, and it was relatively easy to do. Most of the team had a day at home a week anyway, so we just had 5 instead. And okay, I might have rosy tinted spectacles on, but I think most people respected that and thought it was okay. I don't have any problems with communication, and we've got WhatsApp and we use Slack a lot as well, and very rarely use an email now, which I'm quite glad about. So you can see the little green dots in Slack if they're logged on, and you can see if people have read your messages. So yeah, I've not had any experience of anybody shirking or not being there or not getting straight back. It might be because they're kind of grateful. It might be because they're kind of scared. I don't know whether that continues. If you give it another 9 months, I don't know, but we'll see. But no, the team and the people I've dealt with in the industry. I mean, if anyone I've spoken to, translators or project managers in other LSPs or colleagues and friends who own and run other LSPs have been, they're working, and it's kind of glad of a chat.
Yeah.
So then on this topic, to like go back around to that question you brought up at the beginning, does anyone think we're going to go back to the office like it was before? Like if this thing ends, will it ever go back to the way it was, or is it always going to be like this, or halfway like this, or what's it going to look like for working from home?
It's got to, hasn't it? I mean, please, I think the question should be, does anybody want to buy an office? I've got a great one to stay up. It's lovely. Maybe Skyscanner should relocate to Milton Keynes.
Well,
yeah, surely that's part of us, isn't it? And human interaction, and seeing people is part of us. And we're going to go out again and have beers and go to the office and have a good laugh and do stuff. Please get on a plane
I want
again.
to too.
I think it's going to change a little for Gameforge, because before all this, we had a strict no remote work policy. Because I'm not completely sure, but there was like a fear that people are not working or stuff is not getting done because you can't just come around in the office and see what someone's doing. And I think our CEO lost this fear now because he sees the company still running. So I guess it's going to change a little for Gameforge, at least. I think I still hope that we are allowed to go back to the office one day if we want to, like just being allowed to. But I think and hope that we afterwards are maybe allowed to have 1 or 2 days remote work per week if we want to. So that would change for Gameforge, hopefully. I can't say it in full, but on the other hand, yes, I guess there's a lot of companies, maybe the smaller ones, which are on the step of like, should I buy an office now or not, are more likely to say no right now or in the future, because they know it works even without a huge office. So maybe have smaller shared office spaces where you can have meetings if there's really the need to have a on-site meeting, because sometimes it's easier if you don't have like breakups in your internet connection or video and stuff. It's still something different because yes, we are humans and we need social contacts. I mean, there are experiments with babies without social contacts, and they, yeah, you maybe know that experiment. So yes, we are social people and we should be allowed and able to meet people even in the work space, not only like private. So I think there is gonna be a change, but more on the a flexible way, like you can work from home or you can go to the office, and it's just more flexible.
I guess I've been just my personal sort of prediction has been that a lot of corporate offices will start to look more like co-workings, you know, where you just go in, grab a desk, plug your laptop in or dock it or whatever to a monitor and start working. And that's kind of the way that I was imagining things might go. But
it also really depends on actually the discipline, because you know, for us as an organization, even though we've always supported working from home, working from your home country, you know, for people that say like myself living in Barcelona, I have possibility up to 3 weeks a year to work from Bulgaria. But you know, even though we've supported that individual freedom to work from whenever you want, also we still have all our offices. We have about 10 offices around the world, and for some disciplines we've tried as much as possible to collocate the team. So for example, my team, we have people working in Singapore, in London, Glasgow and Edinburgh, and that's within our team. But for other disciplines, mostly for engineers, software engineers, we've tried to have, say, a team that's working on our car hire product, to keep that team in one location as much as possible. For example, most of the team is based in Barcelona, and it's just because the nature of maybe software development and the interaction is just to allow that interaction, that discussion, that immediate connection to be easier. So we've been we're kind of continuing with that model, even though we can work from home, still having the need to have those offices. And even we've always thought of, should we have this office of with hot desks instead of having a personal desk dedicated, and again, because of that, just to maintain that team space and team interaction, we've not done that until now.
Yeah. Actually, at Werby, things will be very similar to what Sarah described as well. So our team has also made the decision to let people work from home even after the pandemic, which is really nice. But they'll always be able to go to the office, like you said, because we're all social people. So the interaction is good, and I think if you want that, then you should be able to go to an office. So yeah, it's very similar.
One thing that we saw was, we have an office in Shenzhen, China, and obviously that was the first country where they they imposed a lockdown. So we've had our colleagues from the office there were already from home, working from home. I think it was the end of January after the new year. And then slowly they started coming back and opening the social spaces there. So it was maybe toward the end of March when the office reopened. And it was interesting thing that they had at the beginning is like half of the office could work on, for example, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then the other half can come in and work on Tuesday and Thursday. So it's kind of the beginning of the wave was the approach they did there.
Well, it makes you wonder what we're going to do with all this extra office space now. And,
Rent out half of it and share it with others, or make half of it the co-working space.
yes.
Okay, so where do you guys, like, if you look into the future, where do you guys see your industries headed? What are your top predictions?
Up. I guess we are. I think we didn't change any of our plans for the future right now. I mean, we're licensing new games, we're translating updates, having events planned till the end of the year and stuff like this. We don't really see any change right now. It might be that like maybe next year, depending on how this goes on. But as we are all working digital anyway, it could be that we get less games, less new games, because maybe one or two studios closed down completely because they were not able to work because of different reasons. Maybe they couldn't work from home or needed to close down. But I think for gaming, besides not being able to go to Gamescom or E3, which is cancelled completely, if I wrote that correctly, this year, I think we are gonna proceed like planned. There's nothing really major in our business cases and anything, because the only thing is like the revenue is going up, but we didn't like skip any updates or rescheduled any launches or something. We're just going on as if nothing happened from home.
Well, for us,
oops.
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
No, you go. You go. There you go.
Okay. So for us, on one hand, at Skyscanner, again, the situation is not changing. We're not changing our strategy, our products. We have, what we believe is what travelers need and our offerings. So we continue with our goals and our product goals as before. Of course, what is travel going to look like? No one knows right now. And one thing we know for sure is that people will want to travel again, right? Because I personally know of so many friends and colleagues, people that had their weddings canceled, honeymoons canceled, dream trips. So all of those people would want to travel as soon as they can. And then others that, for myself, I love traveling, but now I realize how much I love it and how much I miss it. So I would even want to travel even more after that. So of course, everyone will want to travel, but only if and when they think it's safe enough to do so. And safe enough will mean different to different things. I mentioned we do lots of surveys and user interviews. So for maybe younger generations, they're not so concerned about safety and they'll be traveling rather sooner. For others, it's more of a concern. So for everyone in the industry, for us, it would be really a question of how do we keep inspiring and helping travelers explore the world, while we also help them make informed decisions and we give them this peace of mind that they need. So maybe for airlines, this is like, how do they ensure that physical safety? And then for us at Skyscanner, how do we find a way to provide that relevant information that travelers need at the right time, at the right level of information? And something else also that we see as a midterm change in travel is how far people travel. Again, from research that we've done, it's those that think that they're likely to travel again in the next 3 months. Most of those say that they will travel rather in regional or domestic travel. and much less international travel. So this is something that's definitely for the short term will change. And as well, we hear a lot of people saying, my country, obviously every country has suffered in a way through that, so they would rather support their own country and travel within their own country. So these are like some of the things that we might see more of.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Cool. So we have some questions coming in here, and we have one. It's a nice question actually. It's just do you see issues in terms of the infrastructure at people's home offices, like chairs, desks, internet connection? Like what issues have you seen there? And then also just by extension, like in your companies, did you actually move people's desks, PCs, chairs, everything, or was it more like, okay, you guys sort out, here's your computer to sort something?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, careful what I say as usual, but I think we've not seen any issues yet. Now, I think if we worked from home for a long period of time, then there's obviously issues there around. I mean, the chair, I'm not sitting in a very good chair, and obviously my desk isn't the right height, and so that's fine. Okay, I can cope with that for a few months, but for a few years, I probably can't. So I think that's something that's coming that we need to be aware of. I think as well, if I was an employee, then maybe I'd want the company to buy my desk or chair, or there's that debate which we've not had yet. If we essentially put that cost onto the employee and the team, then hang on, as employers, as business owners, we should share in that capital, or we should buy some of that kit, because that's only fair. They shouldn't use their own electricity and so on. So that's a debate which we need to have. I think if everybody's working at home, whether there's obviously benefits to both sides, as it might be, well, I'll work from home, I'll save money on the commute, so therefore, I've not heard of any. I know a couple of health and safety companies that have done very well about doing risk assessments for people working from home. I've not heard of any claims yet. We've changed our own contracts slightly to include working from home as an issue, and the team do their own risk assessment of their own workstation and things like that. But I mean, things are getting so silly in the UK that you have to do a risk assessment of the workstation and make sure the monitor's at the right height and so on, etc. And it's quite dangerous in terms of legalities if you get that wrong. But yeah, I think that's something that's coming. It's something that I'm concerned about. Let's put it like that.
So we actually did have people. I couldn't imagine myself, but we actually did have and do have people which do not have an internet connection at home, like for private use. They say, yes, I'm working online and it's all fine, but when I'm in my private rooms, I don't want to touch any internet stuff thingy. So this was a major problem, because I mean, we need to work online, but that was handled very well. It was like we bought some phone hotspots for like having a hotspot set up, and there in Germany you can buy stuff like you just plug it into and then you have internet at home. It's like your own hotspot thingy. I don't know how it works technically, but we bought those for those people, so they are fine now, and the company paid for this. And yes, we to get back to your question, we had the option like you can use your own computer. If you have one at home, you think which is feasible to do your work, you can use your own, or you can pick up your computer and laptop and whatnot from the office. And we even had the possibility for those who don't have a car but would need their workstation from the office at home, that we had a car bringing them their equipment. But yes, regarding the desks and stuff like this, I miss I have a variable desk. I can stand up in the office and work standing and sitting down. I miss that one, and I really thought about picking it up from the office if we're staying in home office way longer. I'm not sure if I would be allowed to, but that's one thing I'm missing. But besides that, it's really running smoothly for most of us. I mean, we're in Germany, and normally you say Germany is like we have everything like cars and stuff, but we don't have good internet connections. That's the biggest issue, but that's an issue we as a company can't solve. It's like if you're living a bit outside of the city, your internet is gonna be shit. But we can't solve it.
Tell me about it. I'm in India. I know all about bad internet connection. So there's actually another good question here. Christopher says, right now clients know that companies were forced to work from home, but if companies shift in the future to more virtual work, do you think clients will become more concerned over data security in virtual servers like medical, government, and so on?
Yeah, in terms of security, yeah, I mean, we've provided all the teams with their own laptops and their own workstations, and they connect into our servers, and it's all, again, I've got no idea about the technicalities, but it's all VPN and secure and stuff like that. And that was, we were sort of doing it anyway. So, i.e., we had some people working at home on it. You know, some guys would do a couple of days a week at home anyway, so it wasn't really an issue. There is some super secret stuff we do where we need to be in a certain room. Again, it sounds like James Bond, but we need to be in a certain room at a certain time with people watching the translator and all of that. That's just stopped. I assume it's just been paused for a bit. It makes you kind of a bit scary, some of the stuff we used to do, but
maybe you can get that going again with like a big glass shield or something, you know, like
yeah,
just,
yeah.
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, let's hope so. That used to pay really well, but so yeah, in terms of security, then I think lots of the tools in the industry are aligned with security, and we have to keep source code on our servers, and we can't run stuff in the cloud, you know. But I guess that's normal for everybody, and the tech we've got. I mean, it's an interesting debate. If this happened in 1990, you know, or 1999, or something, 20, 30 years ago, whether we'd cope, whether we could work, I don't know what we'd do. I guess we'd just all stay in a cave for 3, you know, it'd be like we'd just go home, wouldn't we? But now it's weird because we work all the time. Bloody phones, we work all the time anyway. You know, we're working 18 hours a day. So it's just an extension of that.
Yeah, I don't think the world was ready for this until about 2010, 2011, thereabouts. Yeah. That was about the time when you could have a reliable video call with most people in the world. Yeah, before that, who knows what we would have done.
It would have been quite nice. We'd have had 3 months off. I think I'm going to blame Steve Jobs, I think.
Okay, so I know we've hit our time limit here, but if you guys have a few more minutes, then there's just a couple more questions. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Yes. Great. So there's one more here from our listeners. She says, since there's great growth for the gaming industry, what processes, tools do you use to manage that growth, and do you hire additional staff?
So, I mean, I can only talk a little bit intern here, but I mean, we didn't change. And hiring new staff, not really, because we at Gameforge always have been set up this way, that we do have a set internal team, and then if there's a lot to do and like some heights in like tasks we get, we need to translate like before Christmas or before Easter or whatever. We just level that out using LSPs and freelancers. Because of that, we are very flexible in how much we do or don't do internally. So we as localization did not get new positions because of that. I would love to, but that's not going to happen. Most likely not going to happen. I mean, we are going to stock up if we're getting a lot more new games, but this would not be because of the pandemic, but just because of our business decisions. I don't think that those two go together there. So nothing really changed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, one more thing. What lessons do you think we can learn from this crisis? Can you all share one lesson that you think you can take away from this?
Yeah, one thing that I've seen, and in particular looking at travel again, it's more than ever, like in a crisis, you know, they say the crisis brings out the best or the worst in a person, individual, an organization. And I think we've seen almost like both examples and in different companies. It's, you know, the importance of how organizations communicate and support in this time. And it's not just their users and their customers, but also how they support their employees. Because if you treat your customers and, you know, mistreat them, we've seen some airlines that don't respond to user queries, support them. Obviously, that will impact their brand perception, their loyalty. But in the same way, if you don't treat your employees right, it will equally impact your reputation. And I remember an example. Was it this electric scooter company that apparently they laid off about like a big chunk of their employees on a 2-minute Zoom call through a voice recording, something like that. So obviously, every time I think of that name, I remember of this, and you know, maybe I'll never use them. On the other hand, we've seen, I don't know if you've heard about Airbnb, for example, but you know, they've had to lay off 25% of the employees globally, and that's just, I think it was about 2,000 people. And you know, they did it in the most thoughtful and considerate way that you can do that, and it's like demonstrates their values, the values that they show for their customers, but also the values that they hold themselves for their employees. Similarly, Get Your Guide, Germany based travel company, again impacted by situation. So they ask their employees how can they support them instead of, you know, having to look at laying off people. And again, at Skyscanner, we've had this amazing support as well internally. So I think it's a time that shows how do you treat your employees, how do you treat your customers, and then it's definitely going to stay in people's mind in the long term. And then how would they go back to your brand, would they go back to your services with that in mind?
Is Skyscanner, by the way, headquartered in Barcelona then, or?
No, we are, well, kind of headquartered in Edinburgh until recently. Edinburgh and London are our biggest offices.
Right.
Cool. Scottish.
So what? Well, let's see here. We're running low on time, but there's still more stuff. Well, okay. So I guess just one thing to mention that I find this kind of ironic is that like I really love some of these memes that are going around where it's like someone has to work from home now and they're like, oh man, I have to work from home. And then there's like another panel and it's like a translator and the translator is like, welcome to my world. So it's kind of funny, right? Like most translators have been working from home like all this time, and now suddenly we're all joining them. But okay, well maybe I can conclude also with an anecdote. You mentioned your car, you know, is full of cobwebs, Richard.
Yeah.
And so I'm in Croatia, in Zagreb, and so we're off restrictions now, and all the bars and cafes are open, and everything is like back to full speed or whatever. And the day that all the restrictions came off, you know, the car washes have been closed. There's a lot of outdoor parking here, you know. So I'm going. I think I was driving to get my vegetables. I jump in my car. And you know, my car is just full of bird shit, and like it's like just nasty, like dirty, and you know, I jump in my car and I get out on the road, and it was a really busy day. Everyone else was out too, because it was the first day, and I don't know where they were going, but the roads were packed, and all of the cars were so nasty, just full of like dirt and bird shit, and it was like it was kind of funny. So maybe you have that to look forward to soon.
Yeah.
I hope you have yours parked indoors.
No, I don't know. It's outside, and it's in a state. Well,
right on.
All right. Well, we want to let you guys go. Do you have any last thoughts to share, anyone?
No, I was gonna answer the previous question about what have we learned, and I think it's important we remember how certain business reacted at this time, and if we look at business ethics and integrity and things like that, then the proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we can see how people react in terms of crisis and in terms of stress. And I'm sure that consumers have a very long memory, in terms of what's been happening. And so there's been some superstars and some absolute fools, hasn't there, in this crisis, and we can see that and then move forward. And the only other thing in terms of business, then, if we're going to have a recession, maybe even worse coming up, then only the businesses with the strongest balance sheets will survive. So there's sort of a shout out there to good business management, I guess, and running a nice solid business. So yeah.
Right on.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank all of you, first of all, foremost, for joining us here on this panel today, and thanks to all our listeners as well for jumping in and for all the questions. And there's also a lot of comments here now from our listeners. Thank you all so much for having this panel. I think it was really valuable and interesting for everyone to hear.
Thank you.
And yeah, it was great talking to you all.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Stay safe. All right.
You
See you
too.
for a beer soon.
Hey.
Stay healthy.
You too.
Yeah. Enjoy your holiday.
Bye-bye.
Bye.